Computer.
We're started.
There we go.
Hello, everybody. This is Marianne Lawhon, and hello, everybody. This is Marianne Lawhon. I'm the executive director of the Voice of John. I'm here today to educate you, not to endorse any political candidate, but to educate you on one issue, and that is the issue of abortion. And while I am passionate about just about every issue that's out there, there is no other issue to me that comes before the right to life. So today I am joined by Dylan Ogurkis. Dylan is running for state representative, and I'm so happy to have you here, Dylan. And what we're here about, on January 22nd, 1973, the US Supreme Court, they decided two very important abortion cases. One was Roe versus Wade, the other Doe versus Bolton. Essentially, what these two rulings did is they took away the state's right and they legalized abortion through the nation for 9 months of pregnancy. They took away state rights. So we're hoping to see an overturn of Roe versus Wade. And for that reason, I want to educate our viewers for the Voice of John. Who are those candidates that will stand for the unborn, for the elderly, for the Down syndrome person? So I have invited candidates from Republican or Democrat, anybody who wants to express their view so that our listeners know where they stand on the issue of human rights. Dylan Ogurkis, so glad to have you here. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and importantly, about this election, this campaign, because I have gotten numerous calls in the last week as to what district am I? Am I the 116th, 117th? And some are even confused because they just voted in the election for the interim for who would replace Tara Toohill, our great state representative for many years. So Dylan, please talk to us a little bit about the campaign itself.
Yeah, so it's great to be on. The new district is very different to the old district. The new 116th district includes Hazleton City, West Hazleton, and Hazel Township, and then goes all the way down into northern Schuylkill County, McAdoo, Monomoy City, Ringtown, all of those little coal towns in between. But it's a little different than we're used to up here in the 116th district, but it's been real great getting to meet these new voters, these new towns in northern Schuylkill County that I've grown very fond of. But a little bit about myself. I've been involved in politics for a very long time. I worked for Representative Toohill on her campaigns for many years, worked for the Republican Party for many years as well. And outside of politics, I've been very involved with the children in foster care, being a board member of Brandon's Forever Home, working to make sure that these children, whether they find their forever home or they're not able to find their forever home, that they are given the same opportunity that I was able to be given as a child. So that's something I'm very passionate about, and just happy to be on here.
Well, thank you. I so much appreciate you. And as I say, I'm not here to give the endorsement. I'm not the political action committee, but I am here to educate you. And as far as Dylan, I know his mother well, attorney Lori Ogurkis, and she is a friend of the Voice of John, and she's been a friend to Pennsylvanians for Human Life. And so it's important to know, I think, the roots, that this isn't somebody who's making this decision for this particular election because it's popular or whatever. This is how he was raised. And your mother, as you said, was very involved in the adoption process, as was our former state representative, Tara Toohill. She was a blessing to all of us. So Dylan, now for the questions. My first question to you is when, you heard me everybody, when Roe versus Wade is overturned and the decision to protect unborn human life is returned to the state, Would you, Dylan, vote for a law to protect unborn children throughout pregnancy, with the exception only to prevent the death of the mother?
Yeah, so I think when you said when is key, because Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned. And I think we've always known that it's going to be overturned, whether it was now, whether it was in a couple months from now, a couple years from now. We always knew that we've been working hard in the pro-life community to get Roe versus Wade overturned, that it eventually will be overturned. And hopefully, as is looking right now, it's going to be overturned possibly next month in June when the Supreme Court meets. But
Oh,
I'm very excited for it. It's been something we've all been working on for so long. So it's just that key word when is just, it's just great to hear. But yes, in the Pennsylvania, if elected to Harrisburg, that's something that I would vote for. Definitely. I am, as I've told you before, I am conflicted with the, like, internally of the mother's life, because it is still a child. But I think what we need to look at is it's the procedure of saving the mother's life isn't medically an abortion. It is just saving the mother's life rather than ending the child's life. So I think it needs to be looked at in that manner. But definitely that's something I would vote for in Harrisburg.
right. And to our viewers, our listeners out there, when we talk about, I'm saying this as a registered nurse, when we talk about abortion to save the life of the mother, the one instance that I think of is called preeclampsia, and this is a late term abortion often. But when you're going in to save the life of the mother, that's intent. But the secondary intent becomes to save them both. We will do everything to recreate the womb, in NICUs, neonatal intensive care units.
Hmm.
So our true intent is to save both, everything we can to save both the mother and the child. But thank you, Dylan, for that answer. And now number two, when Roe versus Wade is overturned, and if it is not possible to pass the law mentioned above, abortion except for the life of the mother, would you vote for a law that would protect unborn children throughout pregnancy, with the exception only to prevent the death of the mother, or in the case of rape, incest, and what the pro-life movement is asking is strict reporting of rape and incest?
I think with this is one of the pieces of legislation, especially right now with Pennsylvania with redistricting. We really don't know what our legislature is going to look like after this election. With
Right.
all these redistricting, we have members who have been there for decades that are retiring because the odds aren't looking so great. So we don't really know if we're going to have this super Republican majority in the House and the Senate. Especially, we don't know what's going on in the governor's race either. So I think the most plausible way to end the most amount of abortions would be this legislation to not, it won't be the most perfect piece of legislation, but I think the most possible way to end the largest number of abortions is passing this law with strict reporting, but also allowing these exceptions just for the simple fact that we could end a majority of these abortions, and then we could fight later on to end them. That right now, this is something that a piece of legislation that's politically savvy enough that we can get it done, work with all these different members, and still do some good.
Right. Thank you. And I thank you for your honesty in that regard, because I think all of us in the pro-life movement, those of us who for almost half a century have been working vigorously to hear the words Roe versus Wade has been overturned, we're being very vigilant about how the laws will be presented in the state of Pennsylvania, so that we can begin saving lives. But as important as it is to save the lives of the children by changing legislation, we also have to change the hearts of people, because we're living in a time, and Dylan, you're way younger than me, obviously, but we're living in a time where my children and grandchildren have never even known a world where abortion would be considered illegalized. And and beyond that, we have Hollywood and celebrities saying, celebrate your abortion, shout out your abortion, with total disregard for the life of the child in the womb. So it's changing hearts as well as laws that's important to us. Okay, Dylan, on to question number 3. Would you vote to fund pregnancy counseling centers that provide alternatives to abortion and do not counsel or refer for abortions?
Yes, that's something that I would support. I think that the thing that we really need to look at past the banning of abortions, we need to look at supporting people who are put in a position where they feel like they need to get an abortion, like that's the only option. So funding these pregnancy
Correct.
centers, that the first option isn't, okay, get an abortion, it's easy, it's quick, you don't have to worry about it, there's no regard. Let's fund these centers that are going to tell people who are in high stress situations who need help the real alternatives that they could give their child up for adoption, or they can be given even more alternatives within that organization that they could carry the baby to term and provide a life for that baby themselves. So I think that's something that Harrisburg really needs to look at, that we could give funding to these centers that their first alternative isn't, okay, get an abortion, it's easy, it's quick, and you'll be out of here and you won't ever have to worry about it again. So I
Yes,
think that funding for these programs are very important.
thank you. And thank you again, Dylan, for that answer. And in this recent time since the SCOTUS leak, as it's become known, we've seen abortion or pregnancy centers that have been bombed and set on fire, and threats. And it confuses me because we're out there empowering women, giving them the power to make a choice to save their baby's life. We'll stand by you. We're there for you. And please be clear that our pregnancy resource centers are there not just to save the life of the baby, but to empower the mother, to give her the resources that she needs so that she's never standing in that group near the Supreme Court on January 22nd, carrying that sign that breaks my heart. I regret my abortion. That I always say they're the most powerful speakers of the day on January 22nd in Washington. Okay, Dylan Ogurkis, our candidate for state representative. So wonderful to see a young, conservative, good Republican who's going to hold on to family values. So thank you for being with me. Our next question. Okay, do you support Pennsylvania's pro-life abortion control act? And what this act includes is provisions such as informed consent for women with a 24-hour waiting period before abortion, parental consent for minors seeking abortion. And so important to me, prohibiting experimentation on live human embryos.
Yeah, so that's definitely something I would support. I think one of the big things you mentioned there was the parental consent that we see with some of these pregnancy centers or abortion centers, whatever you want to call them, where their first option that they give to people are abortions. That these children, I mean, people are put in tough situations, young girls who are 16, 17, maybe even 14 or 15 that happen to get pregnant, and they're vulnerable and they're scared and they don't know what the hell they're going to do. They don't know, they don't want to go tell their parents, and they're so scared. And the first thing they tell them is, okay, get an abortion, it's quick and easy. And then boom. That's something that we really need to fight against, because these girls are so vulnerable, they are so scared, and their parents are completely cut out of the situation by this. So we need to completely loop these parents back into the equation to make sure that we are not only eliminating this, it's taking advantage of these young girls, not only taking advantage, but building back that family in the community, that we're going to, regardless of anything, we're going to do it together, that you're not going to be taken advantage of because you're just yourself, that we're going to bring parents back to the equation. We're going to build this all together and fix it together.
Yes, and parents do need to be very involved in the education of children in regards to life issues, and certainly a minor to have parental consent before, I think of a girl like 15 or 16 years old that's gone for an abortion without parental consent, and now she's having some complications, infection, excessive bleeding. and her mom or dad wouldn't even know that she had an abortion. Like it's really a dangerous situation to put our children in. Dylan, next question. Oh, this is a good one. Would you support a state constitutional amendment which assures that there is no right to abortion or taxpayer funding of abortion under the state constitution?
That is a constitutional amendment that I would go forward with. I think it's a big thing to make sure that our tax dollars aren't going towards abortions. We have a lot of big issues in our Commonwealth that need taxpayer funding, and especially other family issues that could eliminate even the need for abortion, that taxpayer funding can go towards. So I think that's something that we need to look at rather than just funding these taxpayer funded abortion centers just to cop out these social issues, when there's a lot more social issues in our inner city communities that are more prone to abortions that we could solve with that taxpayer money. So I think that's definitely something I would support.
Okay. The Pennsylvania pro-life movement, as well as the National Right to Life, we consider the sanctity of life from the womb to the tomb. Every life is sacred. And we have watched states throughout the country that are proposing and some passing legislation legalizing doctor-assisted suicide, euthanasia legislation. And while we firmly believe in hospice care and beautiful opportunities to face death as families or as a community, we have to look at how you would vote on legislation for doctor-prescribed assisted suicide.
Yes, definitely something I would vote against. I mean, we look at mental health, taking it from the concept of physician-assisted suicide. We have mental health issues across our communities where people take their own lives, and it's tragic. But that's something that's not. It's not like something that we want happening. So I don't see the logic behind, just because it is being done in a controlled environment with a physician, that it's something that we want to enable. We should be promoting life, all the great things that we have in life, and we should be providing opportunities, services to these people who feel that they're put into a position, like in an abortion, how young girls are put in a position that they feel like they need an abortion, that we need to provide programs to these people who feel that this is the youth end of the line. The doctors, I feel like this is my end of my line, that the doctors should move forward this euthanasia or assisted suicide, that we need to fight back and give these people the alternatives and the services they need, that they could live out their lives naturally in the best way that they can.
Beautiful, thank you. And one final question, and I can't even believe that I live in a world where I have to ask this question, but we've had, the question is, do you support a ban on using state tax dollars for the research that requires the use of aborted baby body parts? And that's a painful question. Yeah.
Crazy that we even need to ask that. In 2016, I believe it was in California, that there was a big investigation into universities using tissue there. Now in Pittsburgh and in Pennsylvania just recently. It's just unbelievable that we would disregard the value of that life, that we're just going to use them for science. Now they're these young children who've been aborted are just gone and away, and now we're just going to use their bodies for science because who cares? Like, that's their thought process. It's wrong. It's disgusting, and it's something that we need to fight against.
We really do. And you know, for our viewers and listeners, Pennsylvania, this is very sad, but I want to do a shout out to our Students for Life, because I think it is our Students for Life. Dylan's generation, I call them the pro-life generation. You will succeed where we failed, Dylan. I do believe that you are part of the pro-life generation, and so glad that you are entering the political arena this way. I wish you so much luck in your campaign. I'm grateful that you were here to educate our viewers, our listeners, on the importance Dylan, in closing remarks, and again, we're staying, while all of us in the pro-life movement, I'm sure, have various opinions on everything, and sometimes we're not always with one part or the other, but there is no, so we're not going to get into gun control or the border or any of that, but are there any final remarks that you can make to our viewers, our listeners out there, as we come to the conclusion of this very exciting Pennsylvania campaign, both for the House and the Senate, and certainly our gubernatorial race, but are there any concluding remarks that you can make for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of my campaign, there's so many other issues, but I sum myself up, and I'm pro-worker, I'm pro-family, and I'm pro-Pennsylvania. And I'm pro-family because the family is an important part of the fabric of our communities, that without strong families, strong mothers, strong fathers, strong families, without strong families, our communities would fall apart. And we're seeing that across, not only in Pennsylvania, but across the entire country, that with this absence of strong families, we are seeing a real decay in not only our culture, but our entire makeup of our country. That's something that we need to fight for. And I look forward to doing that in Harrisburg. It's been a great 3 months on the campaign trail. I think there's 3 days left until Election Day. So I'm looking forward to, if I'm elected, to serving and helping the great people in the 116th.
Thank you so much, Dylan. We'll all be watching your campaign on Tuesday night as those numbers roll in. Thank you for being brave enough to enter the political arena right now. It's kind of a crazy time, I guess, but God bless you. God bless your campaign. Again, I extend this invitation to any candidate who would like to express their opinion on the pro-life votes that you would be making. For the record, I'm Marianne Lawhon, the voice of John. Dylan Ogurkis, good luck in your campaign.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
God bless.
God bless.